Thank you very much. And so, as Jens already mentioned, I'm standing between you and the coffee break. So I try to make it crisp and hopefully interesting for you. So very welcome to all of you to the Leipzig Conference Center here, but also on the live stream. I'd like to share some personal views on how AI is impacting on cybersecurity. And I think that discussion will go on, hopefully, at the roundtable afterwards, but also how the authorities, especially the European Union, is responding to the current threats that we see, and to streamline also the activities there. And at the end, I have brought some success stories that and projects that we've done with some customers so far, but this is depending on the time, how much time is left, how do we go into this discussion. So I don't need to introduce myself because Jens has done it already, so skip this. About the impact of AI, what we see every day, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but when I look into media, what is published every day, we see a huge amount of new threats coming in and new breaches every single day. Is it just me? Or is it really caught in numbers how we see the increase of cyber attacks and threats? The recent numbers published in Forbes magazine in April this year, we see a 7% increase year over year only in this first quarter of the year. That means in absolute numbers, 1,248 attacks per week per organization. You have to let these numbers sink in. So it's not a matter if you get attacked, but which attack is successful. So you need to be aware of that and you need to prepare for that. In some sectors, we see an even more increase on these attacks, like the education and research and development. It's up to 2,500 and more attacks per weekend per organization. That's really amazing, and in my point of view. So I don't know if you can confirm the numbers, but if your organization is having attacks like these numbers, do you see these also in your organizations? So. Yeah, of course, definitely, yes. Yes. And what I think is also many of the attacks you won't be even aware of. And this, especially when it comes to 0 days, you may see the effect on the breach month later, and then you really have troubles reacting accordingly to this problem. And as Andreas already pointed out, we see a lot of ransomware attacks coming up. It's kind of a business model in the meanwhile. If you go to the dark web, within 15 minutes after a vulnerability is known, you have the services provided to you in the dark web, like a DDoS attack as a service. I put it like this. So 1 out of 31 organizations are facing a ransomware attack every week. And this is only the first quarter of this year, and we see the increase heavily. Like just yesterday, there was a published report about Taiwan Semiconductors. I don't know if you have read it. That has been hit by a ransomware attack, and they are asking for $70 million to not leak their data and not leak the points of entry to the network. So quite amazing, $70 million. That would be nice on my account. Yes, but this was not by an attack directly to Taiwan Semiconductors. It was through a third vendor, so a supplier to Taiwan Semiconductors. So we're getting interconnected. And especially when you look at AI, this will even increase the threats that are out there, because now every single kid at school can generate malware code by using, for example, ChatGPT. Even if their OpenAI has already included some proofs that not directly malware code could be generated, but you can go around that, you can jailbreak that. So we see a high increase in number and frequency of the attacks because it's widespread. Everyone can do it. But also what we see is a much more sophisticated attack profile. Like, especially when you look at ChatGPT, how you converse with these tools. Like you ask a question, you get a response, and the response engine is adapting to your questions and how the system reacts. And the same comes true for cyber attacks. Like you get an attack to your organization, the response is to block it out. Okay, next try. And the engine adapts to that. So how is your reaction? The engine and the attacker is adapting to what your response is. And so it's even more complex to ensure that the attack is not successful. And of course, as we've been talking before, you see a high connectivity and more connectivity everywhere. You have the B2B portals, and you need to ensure that you not only yourself are secured and your infrastructure is secured, but also the one of your suppliers. And you need to hold them responsible for that. The time we've been talking about 15 minutes until your information of your vulnerability is in the dark web available and used for a business model. So what could be the answer? So just some ideas. We've heard a lot today already about automation, and I think this is one of the keys how to respond to these threats. So automate your processes. The standard patches should be applied automatically to free up the resources that you have. We all have the problems that we have a skills shortage in really good personnel in cybersecurity, not only in cybersecurity, but we're talking about cybersecurity here today. And so this is necessary to get your workforce in concepts and see the more sophisticated and complex environment secured and not in daily tasks. So automate as much as possible. Also, we need to find an answer by pattern and anomaly detection. And this is also AI is the answer. So if you get attacked by an AI, the attacks are more sophisticated, more complex. You might not see the usual patterns, so you need to react to that as well. And AI could also help in this case. And of course, you need to have full transparency and clarity about what's going on in your infrastructure. So how is your patch status in your infrastructure? What are the currently used and exploited vulnerabilities that you see out there? You need to baseline your environment. You need to enforce zero trust security in your system. And therefore, you need to know what's going on. So have a good near real-time or real-time reporting about your current infrastructure and how to respond to the actual threats out there. This is for your organizations, and I'm sure you like to see it that way. But also the authorities have come to that you need to have an answer for and establish some standards to that. European Union, for example, has released a new NIS2 directive. Which of you knows about the NIS directive? Okay, have you established the NIS1 so far in your companies? So, and in January this year, the next iteration, the NIS2, has been released by the European Union as a new directive. What is still unclear is how it is put to national law legislation. So this is still in the process. But what we see is that it will come soon. So then I don't need to go into details what the NIS2 directive is all about. But the main goal is to cover a large part of the economy and society. That means also including more sectors, industry sectors, and not only the large companies, but also the mid-sized and smaller-sized companies that will have a say in the critical infrastructure and is a critical player. But also align security requirements and see supervision and enforcement of the standards that you need to comply to. Also streamlining of reporting requirements, meaning how fast do you have to report an incident and so on. This should be a standard within the EU and even beyond that. And of course, some more cooperation between European Union companies and organizations and countries. As I've been telling you before, in January this year, the NIS2 was released, and it has to be transposed until mid of October next year. still ongoing is how it will be put into national law. But there are the first papers out there from the reference how to implement this into your companies. And yeah, they really mean it. They are putting a harsh penalty if you do not comply to the directive, like up to 10 million euros or 2% of the annual global revenue. So that hurts, I would say. Not only the ransomware would hurt, but also the penalties if you do not comply and if you do not enforce your security policies within your company. And even more of that, your management is held reliable personally. So if we can see that the essential risk is ignored or not put to the extent in the company as you might consider, then they will have been held liability, no, okay, now I'm gone. They are held liable for personally in the management board. So it's a topic of the management board. And as I've been telling you before, the sectors is not only critical infrastructure anymore, it's broadened up. It's the typical critical infrastructure, but also the whole supply chain to the critical infrastructure, and some more relevant industries and sectors like the postal and courier service that were not included as such in the NIS one. I'd like to give you some insights what we have done so far with other with customers in our company in the past. The first one is Mondelez, for example. They have been talking a lot about the threats they face, and the most important thing was to automate all the discovery and remediation of our vulnerabilities. So that was also the most successful piece of the implementation. And they remediate their vulnerabilities not only in servers, but in all endpoints, mobile devices, laptops, and every single piece in their infrastructure. And additional to that, they are also personalizing their issue management and having a great user experience for several security tasks that are necessary within the companies for about 110,000 employees across the globe. So that's quite impressive. And also what we see is when you look at, it works. The so-called Big Fix Cyber Focus Dashboard, that is something that helps you gain clarity about what's going on in your infrastructure. So it's a reporting piece where you can see how your infrastructure is exposed to threats and to vulnerabilities that are known already, and how is your patch level and how is the criticality to that. Some other examples like Fissmann, known in Germany very well, is also automating their patching their complex infrastructure and achieving higher productivity by using the combination of detecting vulnerabilities by Tenable and seamless integration within the Big Fix platform. Verbund is an Austrian energy provider. I think it's the largest one in Austria, and they also patch their whole environment, and this also with reduced staff, because if you're automating, you can free up your personnel for other tasks and counter your skill shortage that you have in the market. A telecom provider, for example, is not only using the platform for patching, but also for software asset management and license management. So this could be also an interesting use case and business case that you don't have too many licenses that you pay for and not used, for example, and also don't get fined because you're using too much of your licenses there. And of course, some patch compliance and security topics there. So how I am at the time level?
I think you have 2 more minutes.
I have 2 more minutes, so.
But I think you won 15 minutes before, so.
I'm perfectly within the 15 minutes then. Yes. So if you have questions.